Hello, hello, and good day to everyone. Magandang araw o gabi saan man panig kayo ng mundo naroon ngayon. Hi, my name is Kate and welcome back to QCafe, your favorite online tambayan here at Muzencor. Ayan, sobrang excited namin tonight because our special guest will be talking to us about how to create a good resume. So paano nga ba, no? Lalo na sa ating mga naghahanap ng trabaho, isa to sa mga bagay na dapat talaga nating unang-unang pine-prepare. So to introduce our speaker, she is the founder of HR Shouts and Whispers, a Facebook community. And she is also the chief HR officer of an international recruitment company. She is a member of Toastmasters International from Fort Bonifacio Toastmasters Club. Please welcome to our virtual stage, Miss Cristina Estacio Reclamado. Hi, ma'am! Kamusta po?
Hi, Kate. So, have you been busy today?
Yes, definitely. Grabe, tuloy-tuloy pa rin ang araw. Ayan, dahil ganun talaga. Bilang
Okay.
nag-shift na tayo, no? Kasi we have face-to-face na ngayon eh. So, it's really quite busy.
Yeah.
Kayo po,
So,
ma'am.
well,
Yeah.
everything is it's a Thursday. So, we're glad it's Friday tomorrow. So, we're hoping a weekend at last. Okay. But we
Yes,
have been busy
definitely.
because, we have a recruit. I actually work in a recruitment firm, and a lot of people have been applying. So the topic
Yes.
for today is relevant because I see a lot of applications and I see a lot of resumes. And also for our Facebook community, which is an advocate project, uh, we receive a lot of questions about this what's a good resume, how do you make a resume, and then we have a lot of friends who are applying to vacancies kasi mataas ang dollar, so they're applying freelance
Oo,
jobs
totoo.
in US based companies.
Really
So
exciting. Ayan, sige. Di bale, Miss, we will be talking all about this tonight. So take it away, Miss Christina.
yes. So thank you, Kate, once again. And we're going to talk about the topic is how to make or create a good and effective resume. So a resume, okay, people are always copying formats, and there is a great debate, okay, how many pages should I have, like a graphic designer do it for me? I mean, do the layout for me, or should it just be like from a doc file? Okay, and then what else, what kinds of details should I include? Okay, so there are a lot of questions. And the next slide, please, can you turn the page? Yes, we have a lot of frequently asked questions, but I'm going to just give you like 6 FAQs. Okay, so usually Okay, there are three terms that are usually interchanged. Okay, what's a resume, and then what's the difference between a resume and a curriculum vitae, and then there's another term. It's called a biodata. Okay, so we will answer that in this episode. And then, of course, what makes a resume effective? Is it the format? Is it the font? And then also, should I put my picture in the resume? Okay, so that's going to be answered. Okay, and then if I answer this, I will answer you with a question again. I would make a follow-up question, and I would ask, my answer depends on what kind of applicant are you. Are you a new graduate who's just like out, who's about to explore, okay, the corporate jungle, okay, and apply, and then have an adventure? Or, okay, are you somebody who has been around, okay, the corporate jungle, and is it like your second year applying for a job, and how many work experiences have you accumulated, as well as skills? Okay, so, and then the last question, okay, should I have a cover letter? So what's a cover letter, and is it still necessary in this day and age? So next slide, please. So let's make a distinction about resume from a curriculum vitae. So normally, okay, during my time, so I'm a 90s person, I'm a 90s professional, so they would just ask for a biodata. So a biodata is the same as a resume. Resume is a French term. Okay, it's a marketing document of your skills and services. So the origins, okay, it's a loose on origin story. So in the West, okay, a 9 to 5 job is not common in the West. There are 9 to 5ers, and then there are consultants, and then there are part-timers. So this one, this document is actually a tool to market your skills. So you don't have to put all your work experiences there. You just have to highlight the skills and experience that, for the job that you are targeting. Okay, so for example, if you have a lot of work, if you have a work list history, okay, there's a lot. You just have to target what's relevant for the position you're aiming for, so you don't have to put everything that happened in the past 1 year or past 2 years. Okay, so that's what a resume is for. And then the curriculum vitae, this is a longer version. It's usually 2 to 3 pages. So this is commonly submitted if you're applying for graduate school. So because it has your life history. In fact, curriculum vitae is a Latin term. Okay, it loosely means your life history. So those are, one is French, one is Latin, and then you have the English term biodata. A biodata is a commonly used term if you're applying to jobs in Southeast Asia, particularly in Pakistan and India. So they don't really say resume or curriculum vitae. They always use the term biodata. But any which way, these documents, okay, should have your work history, your education, and your skills. So these are the things that are common among the three terms. Next slide, please. Now, what makes these documents effective is you have to have these three elements, okay? So it has to be truthful and accurate, because it's a deal breaker if, for example, you've given your resume and then your COE, your certificates of employment, and other records like SSS, PhilHealth, Pag-ibig, the SOA, or there's actually a printout that your HR will ask from you, especially for SSS. It's a deal breaker if the years and then the dates don't match. Okay, so try to be truthful and accurate. Also, okay, the skill set that's written in those documents in the resume should match the job. So hindi uso dito yung yung shotgun approach, like one application and then you apply to all jobs. Okay, so normally I also coach new graduates, and then I always tell them to actually look at the portals, and then to actually look at the job descriptions, and then really think about the top three choices, so that whatever you put in your resume, skill sets or experiences and other details should be matching what's called for the job, okay, for the job application. So and then it would be best that when upon submitting your documents or your resumes, you should check it for typographical errors, and make sure that the layout is organized. Okay, so the layout has to have a good flow to it. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. So if you're wondering what's a good layout, or what's a good layout of the page, and how are the contents presented, so generally there are three types of resume. So I've said before that a resume is just a brief document. Okay, it's a summary of your skill sets and experiences. So there are three types. Okay, so the most common type is actually the reverse chronological format. So if you see the screen, okay, so we have a photo, then you have a description of who you are. Okay, so pasay na yung naglalagay ng career objective, because it's actually quite obvious. Okay, we go to we apply for jobs, and our objective is to look for a better job. Okay, so now, okay, we advise, well, now it's 2022, we don't put anymore the career objective. So we follow the format of LinkedIn. If you're familiar with that platform, it's a recruitment platform. And if you look at the format, there's like a description or a summary of who you are. So here you just describe, okay, your career. So this person is a senior web developer, and then look at the adjectives that the person is using. So innovative, task-driven, professional, and then summarizes the experience. So at a glance, the recruiter would know how long the years of experience is. Okay, so and then of course some adjectives that are really powerful, like innovative, task driven. Those are good adjectives. And then if you see here on your left, okay, so the contact details are there. But look at this. We don't put our full addresses. Okay, we just say where our location is, but not the full address, because it's in this day and age of identity theft, so we have to be careful about our how we are giving out our personal details. And then it's better to actually put your LinkedIn URL. So if you are a job seeker, it's advisable to be on LinkedIn, because it's cost effective and it's more convenient. And it's actually where the recruiters are looking for applicants. Okay, I know because I'm a recruiter myself. So LinkedIn, okay, so there's the URL there. And then what other apps that you can be contacted with, okay, whether it's Skype, whether it's GitHub, or another application. Okay, and then of course your mobile number. So these are your contact information, and then your technical skills are summarized, and also your interests. These are on the left side of the resume. And then as you can see, the work experience is detailed on reverse chronological format. Okay, so the the most recent is at the topmost, and then you go further down. And of course, courses and trainings are also there, which is for this job, it's an IT job. So it's very important that the certifications are there and the education. Now, another tip also, I would suggest that you plan out your career so that number one, okay, this will actually address your gaps, okay? Like for example, there are a lot of people that have decided to go on hiatus. That's fine, but you still have to be very truthful and accurate when you put details in this format. And then you just have to be steady and calm when you answer those questions in the interview. Now, the courses and trainings, I know that there are a lot of people who invest in trainings, but I would suggest to just put the relevant courses and trainings, okay, so that it doesn't crowd the page. And then there's another format, and this will actually be good for new graduates, okay? Can you turn the page, please? So this one is the functional format. So it's actually focuses on the skills of the person. Now, this is actually a better format for those that have less experience, okay, and then for new graduates, okay. So this is actually a very uncommon format because usually recruiters would go for work experience already, but for those who just graduated, you can actually use this format. When I graduated and entered the workforce, I was actually uh, already like in the industry for a year. Okay, I was a writer when I started out, and I had a functional format. Okay, because I had a few trainings. Okay, which I took. Okay, so I listed my general skills. Okay, so I was a writer. So one of my skills was copywriting, PR writing, and journalism. I was like also a news reader when I started out early on in my career. So I placed it there. And then when I sought out my first corporate job, I was like already working for a year. So, but because it was not related to the corporate job that I was applying for, I chose a functional format. So you would just have to highlight your areas of strength and then some personal achievements, okay, education and interests. Now, the reason I said it's uncommon because ang haba ng interview ko because the recruiter was trying to fill out what's your work history, etc., etc., etc. So I said that I was like transitioning, okay, from a job that was like, because it was like the TV industry. So I was transitioning from that kind of industry to a more corporate setting. So, yung interview ko napakahaba and then ang dami niyang notes. So, it's uncommon. Okay, this is very uncommon because the common one has the work history already at the topmost. Now, for people who are, nowadays, careers are not linear. Okay, there are people that go from job to job and then they seek out other jobs that were not related to their previous ones. Okay, that's what you call a non-linear career. Okay, like for example, you would be a graphic designer in one job, and then in another job, you will try being a virtual assistant. So it's not like the same field. And then in a later career, you would have like another job, which is, I don't know, mascot. No, just joking. It like for example, you would have another career in the call center. So that's a non-linear type of career. So what I would suggest if you have that kind of movement, let's go for the third type of resume. Yes, it's called the hybrid format. So the hybrid format, okay, is a combination of showcasing your skills, your work experience. And if you are like me, I have a personal project, my advocate group, which is HR Shouts. So you can put it as the third category. So this is advisable for 2022 because I assume that with the gig economy and because of the home-based freelancing telecommuting industry, okay, so jobs are not permanent, okay, they're actually gigs or contractual. This is a better type of format. And it's also straightforward, and it showcases what you can do for a client already. So those are the three types of format. The first is the reverse chronological, which is the traditional, what we have, okay, and then we had the functional, and then we have the hybrid. So can I put my picture, or should I put, can I put my picture, or can I opt it out? Actually, my answer to that is, if you must put your picture, you have to have a good picture, and you have to have it, maybe go to a studio and, have your picture taken by a professional photographer so that it's well lighted. Okay. And then you're presentable. Okay. And then just have try to face the camera. Okay, like when you do in your passport picture, because a lot of this is what I noticed. Okay, there are a lot of pictures, especially also in LinkedIn, where people are like slanting their head, or in another pose or what. That's not very professional looking. So we have to present ourselves, in a very neutral, okay, neutral pose. Okay, and it's very professional looking. So that's my advice if you're going to put a picture in your resume. But other than that, whether you opt it out or whether there's a picture, it doesn't matter. What matters is the skills are listed, the work experience is there, and then some information about your education, and of course, your contact information. So let's go to the next page. So the good ones, okay, let's just summarize. Okay, the good resumes, they're truthful and accurate. Okay, should there be gaps? Okay, well, that can be explained with a cover letter or during an interview. Okay, but good resumes are truthful and accurate. Okay, they match the job. Okay, and they have this information: the contact information, skill summary, work experience, and education. So this one, it doesn't matter whether you have it done by a graphic artist. So actually in the net, if you Google search, there are a lot of resume builders that are free. There are a lot of templates. Okay, you can choose the ones that suits your taste. Okay, and also a little bit professional looking and conservative. Okay, but if you are, if you don't have the means, so you don't have the tools to do that, you can really just use Microsoft Word, and then just have that information on your resume. Next slide, please. Now, this one, okay, I'm going to give you a bonus. Okay, so often I always like find words or descriptions, okay, that are, well, cringy. Okay, they're very cringy and they're outdated already. So when you have to describe yourself or your accomplishments, you have to make it more action. You have to use action words, not passive verbs, and also try not to use those cliches. Okay, the first one that comes to mind is salary is negotiable, and then at the bottom of the page there's a character reference available. So these lines, okay, you need not put it in your resume anymore because it's unnecessary. Anyway, when you have the interview, you will already, I mean, it goes without saying that the salary will be negotiated at the stage, okay, at a certain stage of the application process. And then character reference will be furnished. um, this one also unnecessary because the HR actually, when you apply to like professional companies, what happens is you sign a document during the application process, and it says there that you are allowing the company to do a background check. So these phrases are unnecessary already. Also, there's another word that actually I find cringy. Well, it actually affects people my age. Okay, I'm actually in my 40s, and the word seasoned. Okay, so we just have to put, okay, that we are proficient or we have accumulated, we have actually experience in this industry, etc. Because seasoned is actually a little bit, vague also, and then it's a little bit cringy as an adjective. And then there are some, okay, phrases like demonstrated success. So this is like a passive format. So why don't we just put proven results in a certain field? And then this phrase, responsible for. Okay. So remember in job descriptions, okay, so he or she is responsible for. Even in job descriptions, we don't use that anymore. We actually use action words and we're more specific in describing the job description. Therefore, when you describe your work and your accomplishments, be more action oriented, okay? Like proven results in delivering sales or increase sales by 25%, okay? Those are phrases, okay, to bet that they are better in describing what you have accomplished, and it actually, markets you better to your prospective employer. Wow. So imagine I was described as seasoned. Okay. No, but actually that actually makes me smile. Okay, next page, please. Now, this question is actually being asked. Some people, okay, when you ask for a cover letter, and I've experienced it. So can you submit your resume with a cover letter? An applicant would tell me, is that even necessary? Okay. So a cover letter is something that, of course, you would have to email your resume. You don't just email your resume, okay, like you're a stalker and then just email it, okay. uh, what you can do is like email it, and then you would have to introduce yourself, okay, like, dear hiring manager, I am, so I would, introduce myself and then mention the job that you are applying for, and then some brief summary of your skills and experience, okay? And of course, encourage the hiring manager to find out more about you by reading your resume, and even call to action, okay, we can talk about more about how I can contribute to your company, okay, during the interview. So that's how you end your cover letter. Anyway, I'll give you an example of a cover letter here. Next page, please. So I'd like to give you an example. So actually, if you surf, most of my examples today are actually from the internet. Okay, so this one is a good example of a good cover letter because it's short and sweet. Okay, so it's very straightforward and presents what the person has done in his present role, and then what kind of nurse that person is. Okay, so, and then the ending is a call to action, like I look forward to speaking to you about this position. It's an invitation, and you can reach this person conveniently, okay, at the specified contact details. So if I were you guys, okay, let's be conservative and then professional when we do our presentation. But remember that the cover letter and the resume, they're just tools to market your skills, because you still have to be in the interview, okay? And then the interview, when you answer questions, okay, you have to be confident, okay? And you have to be confident and what? And then I'll also be personable, because anyway, these are just tools, okay? You would have to get that job by really acing that interview and showcasing, or maybe, okay, wowing your interviewer so that you can get your foot in the door of the company. But anyway, these are just food for thought. But remember, the next time you have to look for a job, remember my tips, and then you would be actually, maybe you can find your dream job when you follow these tips in making a good resume. So Kate, I'm finished with my presentation. Back to you.
Alright. Grabe, na-excite naman ako. Ayan. So it's about time that we entertain the questions that we have here. Napaisip din nga ako, Miss Christina, eh. Parang all these years, how do I write my resume ba? Kasi parang the last time ata that I really wrote a resume was right after my graduation ng college. So, 2013 pa yun. Old school pa kami noon. Nag-fill out pa kami ng biodata. Yung mga printed out na biodata talaga, na wherein you will just really input your data talaga, tapos you would be sending out all of those handwritten biodatas to companies and then wait for that call for an interview.
Well,
Ibang-iba noon, no? Kaysa
well, good
ngayon.
for you. If you have not been updating your resume, it means that you have been, you've been
Yes.
steady in a certain job for many years.
Yes.
So you're not a job hopper.
Luckily naman. Ayan. Pero ngayon, no, I think Miss Christina, parang mas napapadalas yung mga hybrid na mga resumes, no? Especially with the, parang mas dumadami din lately yung mga creative jobs. So parang nag-iiba rin yung paraan ng mga tao whenever they present themselves. Because, there are also portfolios. Meron kaming tinatawag naman sa mga editors na reels. Yung iba na kasi yung reels ngayon, no? People, when they think of reels, they think of Instagram reels, ganyan. Pero before, in the media, we use reels as samples for our editing. For example, we've done editing for commercials. Yung mga ganon. So meron kaming mga film reels na ginagamit naman to promote naman our portfolio in a way.
Well,
Ayan.
when I mentioned my first job was in the media, I was a TV reporter, and I actually just had a one-page resume, because the rest of it was an audition. And
Yeah,
then later on, if because I was also a voice dubber, I actually just had a very short resume, and then I would send it with my tapes.
sample. Yes. Yun nga po, no? Iba-iba talaga yung how we present it. And I think with also the technology nowadays, some people, they have their own websites as their resume.
Well, that's correct. Okay. So what I didn't mention here, because I was like looking for, I mean, I was like, my samples were
Opo.
for non-creative jobs, but
Traditional. Yeah.
yeah, but if you have, like, if you're a creative professional, so you would have to include already, because this will be asked anyway. So please
Opo.
include the link of your portfolio in the
Yes.
contact information, perhaps. And then, because when you also submit it, the next thing is, can you submit your link?
Sample. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oo, definitely. Ganun na talaga yung katulad ngayon eh. But anyway, so we have a question here that asks, for the relevant trainings, what is the prescribed timeline? Let's say, for example, di ba po, when we write in our trainings or what we have kasi ngayon, di ba, parang marami ng mga taong mga naging seminarista.
Mhm.
Kumbaga, back-to-back na mga seminars ang ina-attendan natin. So, meron po bang specific na parang timeline na, okay, so ang pwede mo lang ilagay sa resume mo is mga trainings that you've done for the past year or for the past 2 years or 3 years? May ganun po ba?
I would like focus on relevant trainings for the job. Okay, so since we are going to well, it depends first. Okay, so again, what kind of applicant? Okay, so for example, this is if the applicant is pursuing the same line of work or
Mhm.
the same career, along the same career path, like graphic designer 2 or senior graphic designer, I would just like just highlight those that's relevant to graphic design. But if this person is transitioning, okay, would want to be a VA, because there are graphic designers that are in US companies, everyone is a virtual assistant. Okay, so
Yes.
you might want to also include some training in how to do Google Sheets or how to manage Google Drive. So it depends on relevancy, okay? But I would suggest to keep it like, I always have this thing about the top 5, so that you don't really look like you're like an eager beaver, and then you don't look like a
Yes.
scholar. So because there are applications, I'm sorry, but sometimes it makes me wonder also, like there are young professionals,
Mhm.
the list of certifications and trainings is even like longer than the work experience. So
Totoo.
yeah, so I would focus on the top 5 and how relevant it is for the job that you're applying for.
This is actually very good information, you guys, because I had this very short stint din kasi as a recruiter before. So, to be able to check in mga 100 resumes sa isang araw, you definitely know na what to look at. So, isa sa mga bagay na wag na nakakainis tignan. Kapag sobrang haba talaga siya. Kaya maganda yung recommendation talaga ni Miss Cristina na keep it simple, 5 lang, only those that are relevant talaga to the field, to where you're applying at. Kasi baka hindi na siya, nilagay mo pa doon pati yung award na nakuha mo nung kinder ka, most enthusiastic, gano'n.
Well,
Diba sa people
there
diba? May elementary pa.
but kasi there are I would also advise people to plan out their trainings, okay? And I usually this one needs planning, okay? Like
Yes.
me, I wouldn't look for short stint trainings, okay? For example, that you would want to train yourself in communication. That's why I became a member of Toastmasters, because at least it's just one, it's just one
One-liner.
it's just one category there in your trainings and certifications, okay? Because being in that kind of path, okay, in Toastmasters, it's actually, it depends when you want, it's your call, okay, to
Yes.
become a member or not. So it's like you can have it lifelong, it's a lifelong thing or a short term
Yes.
thing.
Because it's a
So
club.
yeah, you have to really plan out your trainings, okay? That's
Yes.
why I invest on big big ticket trainings rather than the short courses.
Ayan. O, diba? That's another tip, you guys. Really, when you have this career planned out for yourself, try to look into those big ticket trainings that will really propel naman your career. O, diba? Ayan. So,
Pagka
with all,
nag-cooking course kayo, wag nyo na ilagay yun. Baka hindi relevant yun.
yes, dapat talaga, 'di ba? Yung relevant lang talaga dun sa ina-applyan natin. One
Mm.
of the fun things that I remember noon when we were taught how to look at resumes talaga is get words from your resume na yun yung magiging talking point mo during the interview. So those are the things naman na kasi fresh grad ako noon sobrang desperate ko paano nga ba ako maka-hire. So one of the things that I've learned na sinabi din sa akin ng recruiter before was that make it a point that when you apply for a job, do not submit talaga. Gaya ng mga tinuro kanina, yung resume na generic na for everybody. You really have to customize your resume depending on what is the position that you're applying for, the nature of the company, the values of the company. Pwede mong i-insert talaga yon, mga talkings yon inside your resume.
Well, there's a trend nowadays, okay, to make everything on the first person. Yeah, the language, like I did it's like a little bit casual. I
Yes.
would not, that's not my cup of tea, because
Mhm.
remember that it's, you still don't know who the personality or the climate in a particular company. So I would suggest using neutral language, I mean neutral
Yes.
and professional language. I've seen that kind of resume where they actually have like, I I did this, like it sounds like an essay, a personal essay when they describe their
Mhm.
work experience. I would actually refrain from using that kind of format.
Ayan, o 'di ba? And then we have a question here po, Miss Christina, that asks, dapat po ba na ini-include ang hobbies or interests sa inyong resume? Di ba po, I mean, part of the resume before, meron talaga yun yung akala mo mini-mini slam book. May portion where they ask you about hobbies or interests just so kung wala ka sa trabaho, ano nga bang ginagawa mo? Is this still parang a thing nowadays po?
Well, for new graduates, okay, it's still good to have that kind of information, because aside from what you did in school, we don't know what your interests are. So for new graduates, that's still relevant. Okay, that's still necessary. I mean, it's optional. Okay, but for like if you're already like, you've worked for 2 to 3 years, that's not necessary anymore.
Yes. Pero po, no, isa sa mga common thing na sinasabi kasi ng mga fresh grad, wala pa akong experience, galing akong school, ano ba talagang ilalagay ko sa resume ko? Tapos ang problema pa nila, lalo na kapag wala silang organization ng college, meron silang mga term na tinatawag sa school before na patay na bata. Yung tawag nila dun
But
sa
the
mga
schools,
estudyante daw.
that's why it's always encouraged for, well, I don't know. I came from my high school
Oh.
actually had career planning. Okay, we
Mm.
had that. Okay, and we were encouraged to actually be participative in extracurricular activities in
Yes.
college, because that's the advice. Okay, how if apply for jobs, you would need to fill in a resume. So this is actually about planning, Kate. That's what
Yes.
I tell people. That's why there are people who cram on their fourth year. They
Kasi required na by first grading eh. First grading pa lang, maggagawa ka pa lang ng thesis, included na yung write a resume. So parang people are saying, oh my gosh, my last year on college, what can I do? Kasi wala ako ng lahat.
Mm, well, in high school, we had that. We had a session with our guidance counselor.
Mhm.
I came from well, OB Montessori. I remember we
Mhm.
had sessions with our guidance counselor, and we were taught how to write our resumes. Okay, and
Yeah.
second, we were also practicing for our job interview. I had my first job when I was in third year high school, because during that time walang in yeah because during that time walang internet. It's such a boring
Yeah.
life. so what
Oh.
so we I was in well, I actually sought out to have a summer job. I was like selling Time magazine. They had
That's nice.
I yeah, they had a program during those times for seniors and juniors. Okay, they advertised it in the newspaper, and then my mom said, hey, so that you have some work experience when you graduate from college, why don't you try out?
Mhm.
Okay, there. So there were like programs like that in high school, but I'm not so sure with the high school now. So that's why if people are watching this, I think that there should be a program for kids in high school to,
Yes.
to deal with interviews and how to write resumes.
Actually, kaya rin po ako thankful where I come from kasi I'm from PUP Laboratory High School. So since it's a laboratory high school nga, tester kami kumbaga, we had internship na talaga at third year, fourth year pa lang.
Mhm.
So nakapagtrabaho ako sa Jollibee as an intern, yung mga ganon. And it was a very good experience kasi I was just 15 years old. Nagtrabaho ako sa Jollibee as a cashier. Though maliit lang naman yung number of hours, 200 lang. Kasi syempre, high school student. So, pero still, the experience really. Kaya maganda yung may mga ganitong program sa schools talaga. Ayan. Thank you so much, Miss Cris. Grabe, sobrang daming information ang na-pick up natin tonight. And I'm really excited to be able to share it with our Moose and Core family. So sa mga nanonood po sa amin, sana po marami po kayong na-take note and sana nakapag-screenshot po kayo ng mga tips natin, lalo na ng mga samples na pinakita ni Miss Cris, because those are really very important information, and especially coming from an HR point of view. Nakikita nyo na rin in a way kung paano ba talaga paano ba? Parang nga kami nag-interview kanina. Diba? Mga segment in a way, nakikita nyo. So, okay, ganun pala mag-isip ang isang HR interviewer. So those are the things that you would need to know when you create your resume for your job application. So once again, maraming salamat po, Miss Cristina, for joining us this evening. Salamat po sa pagpapaunlak ng aming imbitasyon. And I hope we can invite you again for a different topic. Ayan, maraming salamat po.
Yes.
Bye-bye po. Ayan.
So thank you to your group, and I hope that the viewers have learned a lot of things from my presentation.
All right. So once again, everyone, that's Miss Cristina Reclamado. Okay. All right. So you guys, I hope na-excite kayong gumawa at gumawa ng resume nyo at mag-update ng resume nyo. Because feeling ko talaga that is something that we also need to do. Even though we're not actively looking for a job, it doesn't hurt to update our resume. So mamaya pupunta na ulit ako sa LinkedIn para mag-update ng resume. Ayan, maraming salamat po for watching tonight's episode, and we will see you again next week for another episode here at Moose and Core Cafe's Moose and Core's QCafe. Ayan, magkita-kita po tayong muli. Goodbye everyone!